This is the MMA Brief Podcast, recapping the world of mixed martial arts every single week, with your host, Brandon Johansson.
Welcome back to the MMA Brief Podcast, episode 39, recapping the highly anticipated money fight between Floyd, Money Mayweather, 49-0 previously, against the 0-0 star of UFC, Conor McGregor. It ended how a lot of people would have thought, with Floyd Mayweather obtaining that prestigious 50-0 boxing record, surpassing many greats, which boxing purists say shouldn't count. They say, hey, you beat a guy who's 0-0. But Conor McGregor brought the fight early to Floyd Mayweather. In my opinion, winning the first 3, possibly 4 rounds against him. Very little activity out of Floyd Mayweather in those opening rounds. Although, when you look at the ending scorecard, 2 judges only gave Conor McGregor 1 round, which doesn't even make sense to me because Floyd didn't even barely throw a punch in several rounds where Conor was landing. So Conor looked good early. Eventually, the undefeated boxer took control of this fight and was able to get the 10th round TKO. Didn't necessarily agree with the TKO. I've seen a lot worse. I'm a huge fan of MMA. Heard Teddy Atlas exclamate how he knocked him out. That was not a knockout. He wasn't even rocked. He was staggered and tired, and he had taken too many punches to the face without defending or firing back, and the referee ultimately made the decision to hop in there. He was not knocked out. It's a horrible use of the term. He landed 111 total strikes on Floyd. That's 20 more than Manny Pacquiao. People instantly wanting to shit on Conor. So that's what you get for trying to come into boxing. Listen, he went to boxing because that's still where the money is. The UFC may have just recently sold for more than Star Wars. That's true. But the money per fight is in boxing. The education process is easier in boxing. You take Floyd Mayweather, you put him in UFC. What are your drawbacks? Not as much people understand it. What are they doing? Stop holding them. That type of stuff. You're not going to make as much money in the UFC as you would in boxing. That's just a fact. So it wouldn't have lasted but 1 round if they went the UFC route. Conor didn't just hop into boxing because he's that arrogant. He knew that's where $30 million guaranteed was waiting for him. Not in UFC. That's why the UFC allowed it, because it was going to make everybody money. The Nevada State Athletic Commission, the fucking WBC, Floyd Mayweather, Conor McGregor, UFC, everybody was going to make a lot of money off this fight. And I'm sure they did. It turned out to be best case scenario. Floyd Mayweather weathered the earliest storm, got hit with a lot of shots that he usually doesn't get hit with. Came back and used his boxing acumen to really put the pressure on Conor as soon as he got tired and eventually get the finish in the fight. I'm personally very excited that this is all over. I was happy the way it turned out. I wish Conor could have got that early knockout. I'm not really all that upset about it. But I'm not one of the people who are saying Conor didn't accomplish anything and Floyd let him work. I think that's preposterous. There's an article, Holly Holm, world champion, boxer, and MMA champion. Both arenas. She says there's no way Floyd let Conor win those first 4 rounds. I'm going to take it from a world champion. She knows what she's talking about. Who in the hell would let someone hit them 111 times? That's not a good strategy. So I hate that when I hear it online. People say, Floyd let him have those rounds. He let him hit him. Come on. Get over that shit. There's no way Floyd let Conor have such success. What did happen was Floyd let Conor really come aggressive those first 4 rounds, and he got tired. I'm happy it's all over. It was incredibly fun. Great night. But now the focus moves back towards MMA. We've got a card this Saturday coming to you 3 p.m. Eastern Time, noon on the West Coast, from Rotterdam, the Netherlands. Main event, Stefan Struve versus Alexander Volkov. Number 7 versus number 8. Volkov, I believe, beat Roy Big Country Nelson in his last fight. Obviously, big name to get on your resume, and a man who has knocked out Stefan Struve. Should be a decent main event. Card is slightly thin, but when you have these cards who look thin on paper, they ultimately sometimes surprise you. First round finish here, slick finish there, scrap for a fight of the night here. You can't ever undersell an MMA card, and I'm very excited to get back to some good old UFC. It's been too long, I believe. Almost 5 weeks. No UFC. All right, Jermaine Durandamy, the former women's featherweight champion, pulled out of her fight in the co-main event. Names that you should know if you've been watching: Bahadurzada, Leon Edwards versus Brian Barberena. I'm interested in that one. I saw Barberena fight in Nashville, and he had an excellent first-round knockout. Big fan of that guy. Trains with Benson Henderson, John Crouch. Also, Tuzmanov making his return. The everyday fan would know there's not a lot of meat on this bone, though. Not a lot that I can sell you. Rustam Khabilov, he was part of one of the best knockouts in UFC history. He grabbed a guy by his waist and slammed him on his head like 3 times until he was unconscious. Like suplexes, like WWE, but real life, right on the side of your head. It was amazing. I had never seen anything like it before. Haven't seen anything quite like it since, the way he got the knockout. So I always root for Rustam Khabilov. But he's fighting Desmond Green, so he's a very game opponent. A lot of other good fighters on the card. I'm sure it's going to be a good matchup. Come back next week. We're going to go through the best of the fights. If there's no good fights, we'll talk about something else, I'm sure. Thank you for listening. Peace.